Oh, we did the tweet, baby. That's such a good tweet, man. Let's go. Wait, are we live? Are we? Can they see us yet? They can see us? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the show. We're here. Crone's here. Lion's here. Austin flew today out to Toronto for the Major. So excited for that because there was a while where he didn't even get to go to the events. FaZe were like, no, screw you, you're staying at home. So at least they let him go now, which is good. So he's out there. He's probably in a hotel room or he's doing something or other, having a good time. And we're here to break down why FaZe are absolutely terrible right now and have fallen off a cliff. And I think he's Max to blame.
And shit behind his back. Wow.
So just kidding, boy. Just kidding. I wouldn't do it like that.
He's going to this major. He needs to explain himself. What are these stats we're coming up with? Why are we vetoing fucking Bocage? We need that shit now.
That's damn right. We need new stats. Okay, cool. Anyway, Crone's here. Good morning, fellas. We're officially all American elements of this podcast are gone. We don't like Americans anymore.
Thank goodness.
So we're shifting over. Omar on the decks. Let me find some stupid image to reply to the breaking point tweet with. I'm kind of running. I'm a little bit running short. Oh, unless I could do an Aches one. That's kind of funny. Nah, Aches. See, Aches thinks I live.
He loves it. Now let's.
He loves it. He loves it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's gonna think, like I'm living rent free in Rab's head. So let's not do that.
No, love it. Let's get on Parasite maybe. Parasite selfie.
I'll just do a Scump one. Screw it. This just came up, and I haven't seen this one.
What am I to post one? What am I posting?
I don't have to do anything. This is a thing. We just reply to the breaking point tweet with
he did it last week.
Just something or other.
Yeah, I did it last week, but someone sent me one to do.
What's good, Carter Garland? Crane, if you got anything to send, or Line, if you got anything to send, Crane. Damn, look at that. YouTube chat, Twitch chat, having a good time. It's Crone regular now. Crone will be here for, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. I'm kind of just filling in to see what happens. I could be.
Yeah, maybe next couple of weeks or something. Crone will make an appearance. Yes. We don't really know after that.
I don't even know what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just waking up.
Crone don't know, but he's waking up. He's making that bread. So that's good stuff. So it is what it is for now. Hopefully in the off season we'll be able to do something as well. Best CTF map of all time. I mean, first one that came to mind I think was maybe Standoff. Is there a better map from Black Ops 2? I don't really want to think about other games. I mean, Raid, but I feel like Raid was worse, actually. I think Standoff was the most sensible CTF map, in my opinion. Slums was okay, but it was one-sided. And I think that the way that Standoff worked was so good. The spawns were so perfect for that game. The way you could do the routes, you could put it out one side or the other, the crosses you had to have. I thought it was the best. And you could also run it down mid a bit. Whereas on Raid, running it down mid was actually more often than not kind of the strategy.
I've got one. I've got a good response.
Honestly, Arden Forest actually was not. I think Arden Forest got too much flack, personally.
It wasn't bad for CTF.
Yeah, Arden Forest is actually a good map. People thought it was boring, but I don't know, CTF was hella boring on the map, but it actually was the best playing map on the game for CTF.
Reply to mine with
that. That is beautiful. So, retreat CTF, yeah, not bad. Not bad. Yeah, best MW domination map. Now, these are the real questions. Probably Gunrunner, right? St. Petrograd that was honestly just tragic. Yeah, oh my god, Grozny Raid. I think Grozny Raid was the first map I played on Modern Warfare, and I was like, what is this? Because we just came off a good year. Do you remember Black Ops 4 just came off a good year into that?
Yeah.
Absolute scenes. Oh my god, Binley Mega Chippy. I didn't realize how much of a thing Binley Mega Chippy was until today. I saw people had driven down a 6-hour bus journey from Scotland to just stand outside Binley Mega Chippy and sing a song. You guys have no idea what we're talking about right now. But search up Binley Mega Chippy. It's funny though. Binley just sounds like a made-up place that apparently is actually real. Just the idea of a Mega Chippy is just so funny.
Mega Chippy song.
Yeah, Binley Mega Chippy song. It just appeared out of nowhere. Now everyone's turning up to this Mega Chippy. It's just funny they call the place the Mega Chippy. Yeah, just the name is funny. It's like, it's usually like, I mean, it's just because they call themselves the Mega Chippy. Like, usually a chip shop doesn't, like, fish and chip shop doesn't call itself a chippy. It would just, like, call itself, I don't know. I mean, the one locally is Fish and Chicken, or it would be a Golden Place, or, like, something like that. But just for it to call itself a chippy, and Mega Chippy at that is already hilarious. And then you've got the fact that it's in Bidley, which sounds like just a made-up Little Britain place. It's just great. So
it blew up on TikTok. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of made progress. Anyway, we should crack on. We've been rambling on. Omar, are we good to go? If we are, we can go. So what we're going to do, we'll do a bit on fantasy. Then we're going to crack through the final week of Major 3. And then we'll talk Major, baby, because it's going to be a big week. We're not going to do like the entire bracket prediction this week because it's just going to be too much and too difficult. But we're gonna give it a decent go. All right, cool. Are we ready, gents?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh my, why are your memes always so fucking good, man?
Yeah, my memes are top tier.
What the hell?
This guy worked all day and night on the memes, so absolute 100%.
Meme captain.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Shout around 11 stats. Okay, cool. 3, 2, 67. Episode 67? Yeah, it's gotta be.
Yeah, it is.
All right, good stuff. 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, HECZ back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to episode 67 of the Breaking Point podcast. It's a special day today. Austin Easy Mac O'Neill, he's flown up to Toronto for the Major that begins in just a couple of days' time. So, well, we're a 3-man podcast still because Americans, they're out of here, baby. We've got Crone, we've got Lineman joining us for the rest of the show. Lots to dive into, loads of OpTic stuff. And, of course, well, teams looking at way better. Some teams looking absolutely terrible. Who's going to win the Major? That's the big question because there are so many teams that could win it this time. Probably the most teams that I think can win a Major in quite a long time, actually, going in. There's so many options, so many possibilities. I'm sure it's going to be hard to predict. Boys, how are we doing? Lion, good morning. You're looking well. The lighting's great on all the boys today. Just love to see it.
Yeah, mate. I'm very excited to get into this. We're going to cover some fantasy, cover the Major. Some teams looking really good. I'm really excited to talk about Seattle because those guys are looking insane. But yeah, I'm on minimal sleep as always. So yeah, I'll be a bit loopy today, and I'm excited to say some shit. How are you, Crone?
I'm good, bro. I went and stole my partner's Shiguro's plants, not illegal ones. Shiguro's plants, and I went and stole one of her lightings, put it behind my monitor. Innovative.
Good man. Yeah, it's, improvise, adapt, overcome. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Thanks to all those watching right now live on Twitch and YouTube, after the fact on the podcast platform as well. You guys have been killing it with all the reviews and stuff. 5-star baby. Love to see it. Really do appreciate it. But yeah, firstly, let's talk fantasy, right? Because we've got fantasy open on breakingpoint.gg. I believe if you guys just go to our, right now on Twitch, our profile, there's a little, I don't know, on the about section or something, there's a link that will take you straight to the fantasy pick'ems if you guys want to get involved. Do you want to bring up my one, Omar? Just let me know when it's up there and I'll talk through it because I think a lot of people have had similar ideas this week. All right, let's go.
It was tough this week to build a team.
It was tough though, man, honestly. So $25 you've got and you can now pick players from the same team. And I mean, I thought attach was just, I think pretty much everyone went for attach in one way or another because or a player in a similar situation because for $7, he's been killing it lately, put up loads of points. I thought he was good value for money. I always try and pick an OpTic player in there somewhere just because they have the best stats usually. Their KD, I saw some interesting stats earlier today. Their KD this season is a 1.09. The second closest team is a 1.04. So they usually slay out pretty heavily. And Dashy was $10. Go on, Line.
Sorry, which team is 1.04? I just want to know.
FaZe are 1.04, but there's another team that's slightly above them, which I think might be Seattle, or it might even be Seattle.
Right now.
Yeah, but it's on the Reddit. It's overall team KDs. But yeah, so I went Shotzzy. I thought I wanted to get, like, I always try and get Dashy because he's always maybe a safer pick for good numbers. But you've also got to think here that there's multipliers depending on how deep the teams go on the way that currently works. Because we had an issue one time where Awakening dropped like a 1.7 and got first rounded, and he had like ridiculous numbers. So we tried to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. So if you get a multiplier based on your team's placement, so you also want to think about choosing players that you think are going to make a bit of a run.
That's where I screwed up with my team. I picked 2 players that are probably going to get first rounded.
You never know, though. It can always happen.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't think the multipliers are as bad as they used to be, because I think the first time I did it, my players got first rounded and they got times by 0.7s, and I hope they absolutely fried. So I'm kind of banking on that Rocker make a bit of a run here and taking Standy as well, because Standy is maybe the best $4 pick. You can also get Kenny, I think, for $4. But if you get Kenny and Detach, then they're playing each other, so they're taking points off each other. So I was thinking about that as well. And then for $5, I could get maybe Afro. And I don't know, Bance he plays FaZe round 1. It's going to be tough, but I think Bance, he kind of turns up against FaZe. So anyway, that's my team. I don't really know if I could do too much better than this, actually, with the money on the table. So anyway, that's my team. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. Oh,
Pepsis Rock. I'll go.
Yeah.
Pepsis Rock. Okay, now Pepsis Rock. Go. Ready?
Paper, scissors,
rock. You're cheating. Your thing's not even on there. Okay, go. Ready?
Yep.
Paper, scissors, rock.
Oh.
He's had you.
So I went. I don't know if Omar has mine up yet, but I got Attach, Afro, Sib, and Gunless. I wanted Sib or Shotzi, but I went with Sib because he was like $1 cheaper. Then I got Attach, just like Red. Like Attach was a free dub. I think he's a good pick for the price. And then Afro and Gunless is kind of like, who do they play the first round? I think one plays London, play the loser of Seattle in New York.
That's right,
so
yeah.
That's rough for them.
You're getting rounded, my friend.
You never know.
Probably. But you never know. I don't know, that's hard. And then Gunless will play the loser of Mutineers and OpTic, so I mean he could. I mean, if it's Florida, he might be okay.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, that's my team. It was really hard to pick this week. Like everyone's really expensive, and all. I feel like it's priced really good. Whoever did the pricing.
Yeah,
it's pretty fair. Like it's really hard to pick. Really hard.
It's the first time we've nailed the pricing to make it like really difficult to pick a solid team that's looking good going into the major. I think it's because it's based off the fantasy points that they'd scored during the qualifiers as well. So I went for Standy at $4 because he's a really cheap option, and I think with the ability that he's shown in the past, he can turn up on LAN and like outperform the worth. Like I think he'll be fine. Envoy, I went with him because $6 for a player just like him as well. Like him and Standy are the 2 SMGs. They can both just out of nowhere be top 10 players. They've proved it in the past. And then my ARs are Attach and Sib because Sib is frying. He looks ridiculous right now. I'll pull up his stats, but it's like these 2 players are playing at like the best they've ever played. Like it actually might be Attach's best like month period in COD. Genuinely. Maybe outside of Champs 2015. Like that was, So I think Sib and Attach, that's my team. And Envoy and Standy. But I'll pull up his stats right now. I think
he has the highest KD for his role, right? This stage. I wanted to get Sib. Like Sib was a good pick, but for $8, I couldn't quite fit him in. But like Sib could be a scary force. But I think that their first round matchup is like it's really, really tough to say. So many of these teams are super on form right now, and they like all need to win because they need the points. Like they can't afford to lose. So someone's got to lose. That's how it works.
Sib has a 1.25 in hardpoint this stage. He's getting 71 seconds hill time per map. He's got a 1.08 in SND, and he's got a 1.31 in control. So he's killing it. These guys in respawn are ridiculous. It's just their SND. I was talking to Pred yesterday, and he's like, I don't think we'll lose if we can get our SND together. And I think that's true. They might be the best respawn team this stage. I think easily. So
if I was going to make a bet on it, I would probably pick Surge just for the amount they're paying, and I think they could win this definitely.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll certainly get to that.
I'm a dark horse.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting actually. I mean that first round matchup with Subliners is crazy because as you say, like both of the teams are kind of questionable in search, but their respawn has been lights out. So that's like an honestly battle of the titans in the respawn modes, I think, which has kind of come out of nowhere really, those teams. But let's crack on, right? I want to talk firstly about kind of the OpTic situation because I mean, look, they confirmed today that PROLUTE is going to be playing at the Major. Illey's not going to be there. Pretty much what we expected. There's been all sorts of stuff really talked about Illey because like he's still awaiting these like MRI results from this doctor. And there was all this drama that came down after the matches on Sunday when he was kind of caught, let's just say, playing. I think it was Charles or it was the Elite. I don't think it was.
Maybe like Elite. I think it was a 2v2 Elite. He was on a burner. That was like the
the kind of big thing was he was playing on a burner, like a ringer account. It wasn't really his account. And it seemed like, and the initial reaction from Scump and Shotzi was that like he was kind of like he wasn't meant to be doing this, was kind of going behind the team's back, playing like when he's meant to be resting up, this type of stuff. And we didn't really have the full context. And Scump and Shotzi seemed kind of confused about it. And then Rambo came out and said that actually the doctor had kind of given him the go ahead to play just to kind of see how he's recovering, seeing how he's healing, right? So, but you know, Rambo couldn't really give any positives, right? I think the way Rambo said it is that he played for however many hours and then he had his information to go back to the doctor with. He couldn't say like oh, it was better or he didn't really come back, the pain or whatever, right? So we'll have to see whether it'll go away, whether it will return, whether Illey's going to be out for the rest of the season, which we certainly don't want to be the case. But the problem is that if he can't return for the start of the Major 4 qualifiers, then things get a bit suspect, right? Especially depending on how OpTic perform this weekend, because OpTic are still favourites, really, at least from the bookies' perspective, to win this event, despite having PROLUTE, which is probably justified based on the way they're playing, right? So, yeah, what's your take on the whole OpTic situation? Because they've done incredibly well bringing PROLUTE in and maintaining the success. I don't think there's many teams in the game that could maintain the level of success they've had, if any teams in the game, with a substitute player like this, albeit he fits into the role very well. But the fact that they're still going into this event after playing 5 league matches as the favourites with a sub is a testament to them, but also a testament to their substitutes and what he's brought to the team as well, because PROLUTE's been absolutely killing it, especially in the respawns, I think, and in search, in fairness. But his respawn stats are pretty nutty, I think. So, yeah, Lion, what are you thinking, right? As the resident OpTic fan, are we confident?
Well, Crone, you're also an OpTic fan, right? Like,
maybe I'm a casual OpTic fan. I used to be a big one. I used to be a big one, but now I run a page. I kind of can't be too biased against anyone.
All right. But on your private, you're a little bit biased. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, this team, if we're looking, obviously, I'm Mr. Stats man. Me and Austin, we love our stats. PROLUTE's got a 1.1 for this stage. He's come in and been an absolute beast. It's actually been his SND, which has been the strongest point on the score sheet. But yeah, all the players are pulling their weight. Scump has the lowest KD on the team at a 1.06. And there's only, if I look through all the stats, 2 negative KDs out of all of the game modes for all players. And that's Shotzi and Scump both have a 0.89 in SND. And then the rest, they're all clearly positive. And so, yeah, we've touched on how PROLUTE fits into the system really well. He's been the perfect replacement for Illey. And I'm excited to see what he does on LAN, because that's the real question, is we didn't know if Illey was going to come back, slot back in with his hand still a little bit injured. Could he come back and will they still be the same force? Do they want to get him back earlier so that he's ready for champs sooner? All these questions. It's still up in the air and we don't really know where Illey is at right now. I think, but my favorite part is just that they can just still dominate and respawn so well. And it hasn't really made a difference swapping them out. So, what do you reckon, Crone?
I think there's a 3-week gap after the Major, right? Is it 3 weeks?
Yeah.
It's 2 or 3. I want to say
I wouldn't be
2,
surprised.
but
I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. If he's playing Charles on a burner, like he's probably ready. And let's be honest here, he's probably been playing every single day. Like easily, like he's a competitive player. He's addicted to the grind. He's probably been playing low key, just not telling anyone. He's whether it's pubs or shooting bots or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think after 3 weeks, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I've never seen X-rays or whatever. But I have a feeling he will be back in after the 3-week gap. And I would hope so for OpTic fans, because they obviously don't want to go with PROLUTE for the rest of the year. They want Illey back, and you would want him for the the stage 4 qualifiers, the major, and then leading up to champs. Like you want him to, you want to bring him back into the system and get used to it. And you know, there's probably a lot of things that have happened. How long has he been out for? A month? There's probably a lot of things that happened in the game that he still needs to learn, and maybe strats have changed and those types of things. So you want him to come back after the 3 weeks, 100%.
Well, my biggest question is, what if he comes back and stage 4 they place really poorly and he has a really, really bad stage? Do they bring back ProLute for champs to try and get that done? You know, what if they win this event, Illey comes back, they play like dog shit, and then ProLute comes back and they win champs with ProLute? Then what happens? It's like this big mind fuck.
That's tough. I feel like Rambo would just stick to his guns and say, look, we already won with Illey. I've won a ring with Illey. You know, why would we? I feel like they would stick with Illey.
It's a case in which they don't, but like, I kind of, I don't know. It does create a really interesting dynamic though, because they've been looking really good, and they can very easily not look as good. Like, I don't think they're ever going to be terrible. Like, HECZ is right to a degree when he says that one of us could sub in there and still win matches against teams. But
He
like,
couldn't.
but, you know what I mean. But within reason, a player like Illey will not have bad results with OpTic, but it's whether it's always interesting in a way, the way that like as the year progresses, the game generally gets faster and faster paced, right? And I think that ProLute has actually done a lot for that. As you say, his search and destroy stats are probably the standout because he's had a few standout maps that probably maybe drag up his KD a bit. I don't know, like he had that 12-3 and a couple of other really good ones. But I think sometimes like I've just seen him take over respawn games in ways with like he seems, I don't know, his style is a little bit different to Illey's. There's maybe a bit more aggression in there sometimes. And I feel like if anything, as the game is progressing throughout the year, that style is really fitting OpTic well right now. So I just want to see what happens, right? Because I do want Illey to come back. I feel really bad for him that he can't play in front of his home crowd. Like he's got like 70 people coming, family, friends locally to watch him, and he can't bloody play. Hopefully they bring him out on stage. I'm sure they'll bring him out on stage to like with the team and, you know, at the start just to wave to everyone. That'll be nice.
I want to touch on one more thing. Shotzzy on Berlin is one of the craziest player map combinations I've ever seen. It's so fucked up how good he is on that map.
He's disgusting. He is disgusting. It blows my mind. Like he looked like he was smurfing in the COD League. Like it was disgusting. I couldn't believe what he was doing.
Full on pubs.
Well, I mean, what's I don't know if anyone knows, Austin would probably be able to find out, but like the kill record after Shotzzy, like he dropped 42 on Berlin, right? Like that's probably at least a good, maybe a few more than what we've seen there before, especially, well, maybe it's not, but just because the game was like 250 to 130. Like if that game was 250, 249, he would have had 55.
I was tracking stats for a little bit that weren't Bocage hardpoint, and I think the only one that was in the 40s on hardpoint was on Tuscan, and that was Sid. I think he dropped like 42. So I don't think any are even close to Shotzi's 40, whatever it was on Berlin.
He got 42. It was 42 and 17. So it was tied.
Crazy.
Okay, that makes sense. But with an SMG as well on this game, where you can't just hold down a lane. He's running around, climbing buildings, jumping down, like it's
just
amazing.
Finessing.
Yeah, full on finesse.
Let's talk OpTic then. Let's dive into a bit of detail here because they went 1-1 this week. They played New York first, actually lost that series. They finally lost one with ProLute. And I mean, look, every series that New York play at this point is must win. And for OpTic, this wasn't necessarily must win. So I think there was a slightly different vibe about this series. But it was interesting that Shotzzy got absolutely bodied game 1 and game 2. Like he went like double leg game 1. Then game 2, he was absolutely lost. Like, I mean, he basically just completely costed them. That round 11 that he played, he just barged in through the doorway and just dies. And HECZ was saying that maybe Shotzi's just shook against Crimsix, you know? And it was interesting, the fact that this was, I'm guessing, Shotzi's first time playing against Crim. I mean, it must be, right? Because they played last season. They didn't play, you know, first time playing against Crim ever, right? Because Modern Warfare and Cold War.
I didn't notice that. Yeah, you might be
like
right.
when has Shotzi ever played Crim before?
Did they play at the kickoff?
They didn't, because they haven't played New York yet so far this season. And ever since Shotzi's moved into COD, he's been teaming with Crimsix until now. So it's the first time they ever played each other. And Crim's in his head, maybe. I guess so. So this is such a fun matchup, though, between New York and OpTic. Like, there's so many great storylines here, like the Crim Shotzi thing, the Crim Scump thing, that just make it a really enjoyable game to watch. And we haven't got to see it so far, which is unfortunate, but it was a really good one. I think Shotzi said after the match that like it was a good time for them to lose, or he said after their victory against Thieves, it was a good time for them to lose there because if you go into the major 5-0, I think like you can get a bit comfortable, right? You can get a bit okay, we're unstoppable, we're just gonna body through everyone. It was this loss showed them okay, look, we actually got outplayed in some of these respawns here, and they won the control, but they lost. I mean, they lost both hard points, right? Which is something which doesn't usually happen. And yeah, if I'm right about that, they did lose. I think they're right. I think I'm right about that. So yeah, I mean, they're a really good hardpoint team, New York, and they won that series. And then OpTic just bounced back emphatically. Like usually, and I said this in a couple of videos, right? That Thieves usually, when they play OpTic, put up a fight. Like it's usually a close series, regardless of the situation. It seems like those guys and Kenny often turns up, but they just got demolished again. I mean, it wasn't. You know, each map wasn't incredibly comfortable, but most of them were pretty much. Actually, I think most of the maps were pretty comfortable. And that's the thing. I mean, Shotzi turned up for that series. Yeah, I mean, they were comfortable, weren't they? Because it was 251-30 game one. When Shotzi's on form, OpTic just seem borderline unplayable. Like, he said himself that he thinks he's by far the most impactful player in the game. And that's when he's playing mediocre. When he's playing his best,
Easily.
they're basically unbeatable. So yeah, I don't know. They're a real force going into the major, and I think that honestly the New York loss will help them a bit because they might play New York again in the bracket. It's plausible, and they might be able to take a thing or two from the series they played against them before. What do you think, Lion?
Yeah, I think that New York series was a bit weird because they did lose a Berlin hardpoint, which we know is like a crazy map for them, and they also lost the Tuscan hardpoint. So two maps that they've proven this year that they're really, really good at against a team that I don't think New York is. They're probably like top 4 in the power rankings right now, maybe. And you made a good point earlier about teams going 5-0, having like this overconfidence. So Atlanta went 5-0 in stage 1, lost in the finals. OpTic went 5-0 stage 2, got bumped out top 6. Minnesota have gone 5-0, and they're probably going to get double first rounded. To be fair. And yeah, so if we're looking at this week, I just saw a crazy stat. I went on to, if you go to breakingpoint.gg, our stat site on there, our stats are amazing, the way it's laid out. And I've gone on to the LAT series, and it came up with kills per 10 minutes for Shotzi and Hardpoint for that series was 43.3, and Dashy kills per 10 minutes in Hardpoint was 12.4.
Yeah, he went 12 and 17 for the win.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was just laughing.
Yeah, it had nothing to do because Shotzi was getting every single kill. But yeah, I think that New York loss is good because losing to a team like New York that is, I guess, more than anyone, they, how can I put this? They enjoy the psychological battle in the league more than any other team. And that comes from Crim's mentality of trying to like surgically get into the minds of the players he's playing with memes, I guess. And so I think, do we think there's a matchup where they could possibly face each other in the major?
Round 2, potentially, if they beat Mutineers and Subliners beat Surge.
Oh, yes. That's very exciting.
That's round 2, Jesus.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. I think Seattle are going to body New York. That's my prediction for that.
We'll see.
And it's not even like I just think that Seattle looks so good this stage. Their respawn is unbelievable. So, I don't know. But yeah, I'm just excited to see. My storyline for OpTic going into this is, can they win with ProLute? And that's it. That's all I care about. Can Shotzi keep up the same performance that he's been having this stage as well? Yeah. What do you reckon, Cry?
I actually missed that match, Subliners versus OpTic. I think I was out for lunch. But obviously I saw the results. I don't know how I feel about Subliners. Like, I don't know, it's tough because they're really, really good at the moment, but it's like, I don't know if I'm sold on them yet. And I hope I'm wrong. Obviously they won the Pro-Am, but I don't know if I'm 100% sold on Subliners yet. And I do think Surge can beat them. Not being biased to Fred, but I actually think they could.
Yeah. They had a weird
But I would
stage.
Yeah, it was.
I've just looked up like who they played.
3 or 3 for 2.
So they played Atlanta. They lost 1-3 as their first game. They then played Boston, Paris, the fucking wooden spoons of this stage. They had the 6-1 map count, and then they beat. They lost to Toronto after that. So they've got these 2 like if you're looking at it without the Texas win, they beat 2 shit teams and lost to 2 decent teams. And
if you
then
look
they
at
beat
Seattle, just as the counterpoint, we will get to this, but Seattle lost to Toronto 3-2 as well, just like New York did, and they beat Paris, LA Thieves, Florida, and London, which is also not a particularly impressive lineup of 4 teams.
They didn't beat that many. Yeah.
So at least subliners beat OpTic. All I'm saying. Like, at least they've proven they can beat the best.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good point.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's still
Shit didn't think of that one.
It's still a coin. I always say coin toss. I've heard other people do that as well. I'm actually
Coin
faded for
toss.
that. Yeah, it's still a coin toss matchup for me. We'll get to the bracket in a bit, but
yeah, and they did just come out of the Pro Am Classic where they won 3 maps and they lost to Strike X and Fire 40.
I feel like they still have that potential to just shit the beds up. Do you know what I mean? They can still just shit the bed, Seattle, but also they beat OpTic Major too. So I kind of either way, it's like the bracket's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yes.
All right, cool. Yeah. Let's talk FaZe because they also went 1-1 this week. They bounced back against LAG, but even the LAG series, they lost game 1 on Bacage by like 100 points. They got beaten like 251-43. That's getting bodied on Bacage. And then the match before that, they got 3-0 by Minnesota. The first ever time that this quartet, I mean, this first of all is crazy stats, that this quartet of Simp, Abizi, Selim, and Arstes as a 4 have got 3-0'd because they got 3-0'd as FaZe by OpTic recently, but that was with Bustini instead of Simp before Major 2. And previously, like last season, it didn't happen at all. They didn't get 3-0'd once. And then in Modern Warfare, of course, they're different teams. It doesn't really count. So that's a crazy stat. They got, honestly, beaten pretty comfortably here. Like, the control was close, and FaZe should have probably won it. But the other maps, Rocker won with, well, pretty emphatically, really. And game 1 especially, again, I think it was the Bacage, right, where Attach went 37-15 and just completely took over game 1. Then Priester goes 10-1 against his former team in game 2. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, you've got to give a lot of credit here to Minnesota. I think deservedly so. I know a lot of people want to see them do it on LAN, which I'm looking forward to. But it does seem like this Havoc move has got the best out of both Attach and Priester in the AR roles. And Havoc and Standy are doing their jobs as well, even though I feel like I don't know how reliant they are on Attach right now taking over series, which seems to be maybe a bit of a, not necessarily a concern, but it's a thing to discuss because obviously Boston had that thing with Methods where they were relying on Methods seemingly, and now he's dropping a 1.0. They're losing the series. There's a possibility there, but still, I mean, we've got to talk about FaZe really. Like, RCT's kind of tried to explain this, and the words he used in his tweet I thought were interesting. He basically said they're getting effort gapped, i.e., other teams are putting in more work than us, which is interesting because it contradicts very much what Austin said, what he always says on the podcast, right? That he thinks they're the hardest working team. I guess he only sees from their POV. But Austin doesn't reckon that's the case.
To say that.
He does have to say that, in fairness, but I think it's interesting. And, you know, people have said, look, these FaZe guys, they just hate the game. They don't grind it as hard as others. I think that Simp and Abizi, and just this team in general is not as scary, are definitely not as scary as they were. Like, I was thinking about it this week, that if you play FaZe right now, you've got it's not like you've got confidence, but if you played last year's FaZe, like, you were shitting yourself. You know, you go down 0-2 against FaZe last year, you know it's chalked. Like, the amount of teams they 3-0'd last year was unbelievable. They had like 17 3-0 sweeps last year or something just ridiculous like that. And this year, that's not the case at all. And I feel like whoever plays them will feel like, you know what, we're underdogs here, they're FaZe, but they've got the pressure on them. The pressure's on them to prove that they're not overrated, you know. So, yeah, what do you think, boys? I'll throw it to you, Crane.
One thing I just looked at is they got absolutely clapped the last 2 times on Boca Charpoint. And I feel like Boca Charpoint is a map that was created for Atlanta FaZe. They 2 of the most cracked out subs of the last 3-4 years. And they're just getting absolutely dismantled on it. I don't know what their actual record is for the season. Probably a little bit different. I know they don't like the map. What is it?
Okay, Hardpoint, they're 9-3.
Yeah. Oh, so Jesus, don't worry about what I said. But the last 2 times, they got absolutely clapped. I don't know what's up with that. That was against Leg and Minnesota.
Yeah, so they were 9-1 before this, or they were 8-1 before the stage on Bocage Hardpoint.
That's crazy.
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I
thought they'd been avoiding
on that map, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, they have been up to 9-3.
They have been, in fairness, yeah.
They've actually not avoided Bocage Hardpoint at all. They've never vetoed it out.
I think I'm
Never.
thinking of prize picks, and they avoid at map 1. They usually play it the next hard point.
Yeah, it's because they don't pick
that
it.
doesn't matter. Yeah,
They've picked it
yeah,
5
exactly.
times. They usually
just
pick
float it.
Tuscan hardpoint. They've picked Tuscan 13 times this year as their hardpoint map.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think FaZe they just don't care as much anymore. It feels like I feel like how many of them actually enjoy playing this game? Probably Stellium, and maybe
Yeah.
Simp a little bit.
Well,
I just feel like the effort, like Rab said, the effort is not there. I don't think they care as much, which is probably not the best thing to say, but it's probably somewhat of the truth.
probably like subconsciously, but then we
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
to Austin, Easy Mac, and the stress levels you can tell have gone through the roof since they've started underperforming. It's probably why he isn't even. No, I'm kidding. It's not why he's not here today. He's flying somewhere. But yeah, I was looking at his stats for this stage. Of course, I was. And Simp, this is the first time I've ever seen this. He's got a 0.94 in hardpoint and a 0.93 in search and destroy, and I can't say like
Jesus.
when the last time I saw that. He's like always been a constant 1.05 to 1.15, 1.2 type player. And then honestly, I think Abeezy's really having a shit year. He's playing
Yeah,
like
he
not
is.
even close to the level that we've seen him before. And so their SMG duo, which has been their biggest like asset for the last 3 years, 4 years if you can count E United, is just not playing at that level. Arcides is kind of he's got a 0.82 this stage in hardpoint, but his S&D and his control is good. Salium's playing decent. It just seems like the game's favoring more ARs, and it's their SMGs that are struggling way more. Like I'm just looking at engagement stats. It's Abeezy that's leading all the engagement stats, of course, but then Simp is kind of at the same level as both the ARs. So I don't
Yeah, I
really
remember
know.
a stat. It was like Abeezy was like negative 10 out of 11 games. This was like before the Pro-Am. He went negative like 10 out of 11 games or something like that. Something crazy like that. I can't remember what the exact stat was. But he's
Yeah, I
having a
think
shocker of a year, to be honest with you,
yeah, it just seems like they're
considering how
pacing
good he is.
teams who aren't performing well. It's usually their pacing this year that has been off. And when teams
Yeah.
do play well, it's their ARs that are getting fed heaps and heaps of kills because the SMGs are setting them up to have those free kills. And so I think Salium, he's at really low engagement this year, but his KD is crazy because he hasn't had to get those kills most of the time because his SMGs are killing it. But now that he needs to step up and he's not, he's playing at the same exact level, it's just nothing's changing. They're just getting worse. And so I think they need either Abeezy and Simp to play the level they've been playing previously, or Salium needs to pick up his kills and do like a method stage 2 or do what Attach is doing now. Because they don't really have that. They don't have the scapegoat of like a AR that's dominating like that.
Is
So,
Salium still playing main AR? I know it doesn't really matter in this game, but ever since
Technically, he's
they
main.
switched, when did they switch? It was before the Pro-Am, right?
I think so.
I know switching between main AR and flex in this game is not like super different.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's part of the issue. Maybe Salium's not.
I don't think so, because Abeezy and Simp are playing worse. Like, it's nothing to do with the ARs. I think Arcides is playing slower now that he's on the flex, which makes no sense because he should be playing a little bit quicker. But yeah, I think there's just something wrong with pacing. That's how I feel about this game. If you're not on the same page, all 4 pieces, timing wise, you're just gonna not be cohesive and get
You
outslayed.
can't win games on this game just by going rogue and insta-land and going crazy. Yeah, you have to have teamwork. I think everyone knows that by now.
It's funny, really, just like because I mean I agree with some of the things you're saying. I mean, and even though that Abeezy and Simp kind of are still having shocking years by their standard, they're still number 1 in the rankings right now. And they're still obviously a scary force because they're FaZe. But I do wonder to what extent Simp and Abeezy, like where they're kind of thought of and ranked as. Like when Abeezy has a dominant series, he's only had a couple, but or when Simp does, people are like, okay, wow, yeah, that's the Abeezy. But it's actually very rare and few and far between. I think name value does a lot because people would still put Simp in kind of their like, well, I know that Simp has been considered still in the top 5 SMG equation, which might be justified, but based on recent stats, it's probably not. And I think name value gets a long way. I think Odie also makes a good point though in the chat, right? That it's like, okay, FaZe maybe have regressed, but I think part of it is just a lot of other teams getting better. Like a lot of the teams in the midfield that needed to improve have improved massively. Of course, Rocker beat them right here, and they're certainly one of those teams. They picked up a shed load of points this time. And are they the next team we're going to talk about? Actually, they only played one game this week, so we won't talk about them until we get to the matches themselves. But I want to talk Toronto because they're also another team on a similar comeback trail. They started the season pretty woefully, and Marky B and the boys seem to have got the lads in gear because they're finally starting to turn up and hit form. They won 2 series this week convincingly. We looked right that they'd actually beaten New York and Seattle this stage in Game 5 fashion, which shows they've got some clutch factor back now. But also they took down Paris and London without too much difficulty. Like Cammy and Clinics back to kind of form. Insight Bats doing their job. Reminds me an awful lot of last year's team, which of course makes sense because it's the same bloody team. But like they're actually, they feel similar in the way they're winning these games. The teamwork is there. And it's tough to know how far to expect them to go at the major. They play FaZe round 1, the team that they could never get past last year. Really, they would always match up against them and FaZe would always come out on top. But right now they're playing at a FaZe that is somewhat weakened, right? So I think this is maybe Ultra's best chance to take down FaZe in quite some timeline.
Yeah. They've looked really, really good on Berlin, Hardpoint, Bocage, Hardpoint. Search and Destroy on Berlin as well. There's only 1 map or 2 maps that they've kind of slipped up on, and that's Tuscan Control. They should definitely try and avoid that because they're 0-3. And then Desert Siege, Search and Destroy, they're 1-2. But every other map, they've got a positive or even record, and they've been looking amazing. And stats-wise, it does look awfully similar to last year. It's Cleanix getting a hell of a lot of kills with a 0.9 KD. It's Cammy with a 1.1 and, well, yeah, like a 1.1 and then like a 1.3 in Search. But it's really Insight who's playing at like the exact same level as when he came into the team last year. Like he's got a 1.6 this stage in SND. And that's like what we saw like Major 2 last year when they beat FaZe to win the online championship. And so seeing them play at this level, I would love to see it cross over to LAN. We also saw Scrappy play in the stage, and he was unbelievable. He got that win for them with against New York, where he had like a 1. What was his KD for that? It was like a 1.3, and then he also got 2 1v1s in the game 5. Yeah, he averaged like 1 kill per round in SND. He had a 2.25 KD for that series in SND. And so they've even got a 6 substitute that can come in for one of their top players, Insight, and also perform at that level. And he can come in at any stage. If they have a bad major, they could bring him in for the next stage and then be that powerhouse again. They've got all these options. And obviously they've got their 2 academy rosters as well.
They're putting the pressure on their starting team. I think we even mentioned this a few months ago that like having great players on your bench pushes your team to actually perform,
Yeah. And so like that's exactly what's happened. And they've always been that way. Remember they had 10 players on their team coming to the CDL.
Yeah,
Mayhem, Lucky.
I remember when I leaked their roster and I was like, man, no one's going to believe me they're signing all these people.
Yeah, they wasted so much money, but they actually won a home series that year with Methods on the team.
They finally found their team of 5 at the end.
They did. They picked up all these players. They went through which ones would work, and then Kleenex has been on the team since. Bance has been on the team since. Cammy as well, and then Insight obviously came last year. I think we kind of knew that they were going to get to a level somewhat close to last year. It would just take them a little bit longer than every other team because their success seems to focus a lot more on vetoes, cohesion, teamwork. So it's really nice to see that now. And then even like hill time, seeing Insight getting 80 seconds hill with a 1.17 in hardpoint is just, it's reminiscent of last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing them play because against FaZe round 1, FaZe are looking on the downward trajectory, whereas Ultra are looking like they could, be that team.
Yeah,
so them and Seattle really go for it.
It's typical that that Toronto have actually stuck together for this long and not made like a serious roster move, because they've been so like off and on. Who knows what you'll get? Same with a lot of these other teams, but they stuck it out. And I think Marky B is a really, really good coach. I actually do think it's hard for us to judge from not hearing what they do because we can't see what coaches do. But I think Marky B is actually a really good coach. And for them to stick it out this long without making a real roster change aside from when players had COVID or they were sick or food poisoning or whatever, I think is honestly tippable. And now they're looking really good. Like they can. I hope that they have a really good major, and if they don't, maybe Scrappy comes in. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But even HECZ,
Yeah.
HECZ is good too. Like I feel like we're underrating him. He's a good player as well.
It depends what role they need to swap out.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
Banksy playing like, well, I think Banksy kind of gets away with playing like shit sometimes, even though he's doing his role.
He's been good lately, though. To be fair,
he has, but he's got a 0.7 in Search and Destroy for the stage. He's got a 1 in Control and a 0.95 in Hardpoint. So like, actually, respawn wise, he's playing better than normal. It's just SND where he's kind of struggling. And
that's why it's good to have both type of subs, though. Like HECZ and Scrappy both is good. I mean, I think other teams. It's a good model, really. Like your players are constantly looking over their shoulder.
They do really well. It's really respectable what they do, like behind the scenes. They have 2 academy rosters. They have 2 substitutes. Great coaching staff.
I think respectful might be the wrong word because you remember when they trapped Looney in Canada?
I think they did
the whole classic thing as well.
Classic.
Yeah.
And wasn't there drama with Breck as well?
Yeah.
I think
that's when they turned it all around. Like ever since the Breck stuff. And the cami stuff.
And the cami stuff, of course. I won't say that word. Man, I said that word on Twitter, and you look at the replies, and you think I see the racial slurs. Like, holy crap! Like that word is normal in like Europe and New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, honestly, it's interesting. In a bit of a tangent, but someone tweeted it. I don't know if it was or someone tweeted it in a YouTube video, and I brought the tweet up in the video. And YouTube, like, I guess, reads all the frames to see if there's any, and like, usually most words it doesn't care. The video is still monetized, but that specific words got the whole video demonetized because it noticed it in one frame, even though it's only a tiny part.
Can you repeat the word
in the frame. I didn't say the word.
I'm not saying that word. Shit, I just read my replies.
Oh, is it that word?
It's that word. It just got Jack Hunter tried to put it in the chat, but the auto modders has said it's not allowed. So Omar did it successfully. Well done, everyone.
The one that starts with a C and ends with a 9.
That's the one. So YouTube doesn't like that word very much.
No, they
usually
don't,
when I post like a Toronto scoreboard, it gets like maybe 10 comments. But I say this one word, and I think it had like close to 120, 130 comments.
Nice interactions, baby.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't really get my reference. Like they thought I was just saying it for the hell of it, but I was like, nah, there's a reason why I say things. So you gotta go look at it.
Yeah, come on, stay with the program. But I mean, yeah, ever since the whole cami thing, like it is getting to cami sensitivity training time of year though. Like, is this time last year where cami turned up? Because in fairness, I think the cami last year was rated so highly, but I think a fair bit of that was a bit of recency bias because he was absolutely a dominant force at the end of the year, and therefore people started putting him as number 3 player in the game above Selly, and which maybe wasn't justified. But he was playing like it at the end of the year, but over the course of the year, it was questionable. And this season, he's hitting that form again.
When Crimsix says something about another player in the league, I fucking listen. And he was adamant that Cammy was the best player in the game. And that's coming from... he is my GOAT, to be fair. I know there's a Scump Crimsix bullshit going on, but I mean, did you see the game last week? OpTic got bodied by Crim, the GOAT.
Oh, man.
Right? When he books COD, like, he would be the best person to come on the flank. Him and HECZ, they're back and forth.
Incredible.
Love it. So I think he should retire and go on to the retire as the GOAT. Go onto the flank, Zuma, HECZ, Crimsix, fire. Content.
Fire.
Yes.
Let's do Seattle, baby, because I know you want to talk about Seattle. Pred's been killing it. As I mentioned earlier, it's not like they have the most impressive run. They let me have a look at the teams that they played. Yeah, they lost to Toronto game 5, and since then they've beaten Paris, Thieves, Mutineers, and Ravens. So not incredibly impressive, but the fashion in which they've won this series has been impressive. They've gone 12-2 map count over those 4 series, which, whoever you're playing, that's going to say something, I think, about your levels at the present time. They're starting to get to kind of kick off Classic Seattle, and I think it's about time that we got Pred and Sib playing at this level, but actually starting to get the results to justify it. Because when we've done this thing, Chrome, where it's like choose the top 5 rookies or rank order the rookies, Pred and Sib have always been near the top of those rankings. And I think understandably, but I rate placings very highly, which is why I was kind of favouring the London guys early on. But I always had to put Pred and Sib kind of close to the top just because they were playing so well, they just weren't getting the results for the time. And they looked like the most promising rookies in the game, at least in my opinion, for their career future, let's say. And we're finally getting that paired with actual results and points, which is crucial because champs qualification is not easy to come by at the moment. And I feel like Accuracy stepped up his game as well. I don't know what the stats are. I'm sure you can look at them live, but I feel like Accuracy has a lot of series where he just drops a 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. I don't know if it's like, because every year, last year, there was the talk about the whole Ramadan thing, right? When he was fasting for the month, him and Asim and I think Hydra as well, the Muslim players had a tough time for that month. And then and I think that's when like Accuracy got dropped last season. And I don't know if there's any correlation, but it seems like kind of since Ramadan's over, Accuracy has been fried. I don't know if there's any relevance to that, but I think it almost feels like all the talk about him getting dropped for Clayster and like that's where Clayster should go because Accuracy's not performing, that seems to have gone away because CSL are not a team that you want to play right now. Definitely not with the potential they have. So, Lion, what do you think? I mean, you know, Pred, he's the boy.
Yeah, I mean, they're the Bocage superstars. Like, these guys, they are so good at slaying and respawn, Pred and Sib. Pred is number 1 overall for SMGs in kills per 10 minutes in hardpoint, and then number 1 overall in control kills per 10 minutes out of everyone. A 1.19 in hardpoint and a 1.38 in control. This guy is going off. And then you said about Accuracy, he's going positive in both control and hardpoint. He's getting 100 seconds hill time as well. So his role in that team is to have a positive to even KD, let the two rookies
that's all he needs, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then he can just hop in the hill, soak up time, get the kills, trade them out, and then just play his role perfectly. And he's playing really good in SND as well. He's got a 1.15 in SND and then a 1.18 in control. It's like in respawn, I can't see any team matching up that well with them at all. They're 4-0 on Berlin control. They actually didn't lose a control at all in this whole stage. And they're 6-2 overall in hardpoint as well. It's just the SND, they're 3-3. And that could be a problem because we've seen the 2 teams that have won championships this year have been the best SND team at the major, which was OpTic in stage 1. And then obviously the last major we saw LAG go on a 10-match winning streak in SND. So if they can pick that up, which it's really just Pred with a 0.68, the other 3 are playing all good, I think then they should be honestly my like dark horse to win. And I've been saying that for this whole episode because I haven't seen a team play like this in respawn really this whole year. They're at this stage 11-2 in respawn, which is amazing because that was their problem all year, was their inconsistencies in respawn. They would have Pred and Sib frying and then the other 2 not really knowing what to do on the map as much, or the pacing is all over the shop. But it seems like now they've really solidified their system and they're working well together and they're frying more than I've ever seen them. What do you reckon, Crone?
I actually didn't look at who they played this.
So do you want me to break it down to you?
No, I remember what you said before. So I think I am overrating them a little bit at the moment because of who they played. But I did at the start of before the stage started, I said on my Discord they're going to go 4-1 and then win the major. They went 4-1, so I mean,
you can't back down now.
might have to put a cheeky $20 on them. But the rookies are looking insane. I think Sib is gunning for Rookie of the Year right now easily. Pred has looked incredible as well. I think a lot of people underrate Pred because he's playing the hardest role in the team, where he's just floating around the map trying to do what shots he does. But I think he is being underrated by a lot of people, and I could be biased. I don't know. And like you said, Accuracy only has to drop like a neutral KD or 1.1, and the other 3 do the rest. He doesn't have to slay out. The other 3 do the rest. And I'm a big fan of all 3 of those young dudes. Like Sib was one of my favorite North American players coming into this year. He's honestly one of the straightest shooters I've seen in a while. Like that dude can shoot straight. It's insane what he does. And the other 2, I love Pred and Mac. I was a big fan of when he was at New York as well. But no, I think they go far at this stage. At this major, sorry. Who do they play first?
New York, or
Subliners.
potentially OpTic.
It's a toss-up, man. Like, I don't know who I want to pick there, and I said that before. I don't know who I want to pick there. I would love for them to win, and then it'll be tough against OpTic or I mean, probably OpTic, but it'll be tough for them. But I think they can make a run, and I actually want to put some money down on them. A little $20. I think they're paying like $13 or something.
Ooh,
That middle of the pack. I can't remember exactly.
yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, they're paying exactly 13. They're like right in the middle.
Yeah, they just need to avoid Tuscan Search and Destroy, which they're 0-3 on, and they might get it done. I just can't see New York, because New York are one of those teams kind of like Toronto where it's not about their slaying, it's about their teamwork.
Yeah.
And so I think a team like Seattle throw a spanner in the works when it comes to teamwork because they are so mixy with their play style. Pred is the only player in the league that reminds me somewhat of Shotzi, where he just roams, but is also outslaying so well like his opponents at the same time. So he's an entry sub, but he's also a roaming entry, which is a kind of a strange role because usually it's like a BZ where he doesn't roam, he hits the hill, he doesn't do many routes. It's about getting engagements and setting up his teammates for success. Whereas Pred's kind of like a hybrid entry, just like Shotzi. And it seems to be like the most effective way to play this game is to entry, but also still outslay. And so that's why I like watching him play, because it's like watching he's cracked on the map. Him and Shotzi, both the same sort of player.
As jacked as he is cracked, or whatever they say. Agreed. Exciting team. Let's do Thieves, because they were the kind of final team I wanted to mention before we talk about some specifics. They had such a strange week. They had such a strange stage as well, because they, in incredible fashion, I know I tweeted about this and it got some, like, people were kind of confused because the first map they played in the series determined everything. If they won the first map, they 3-0'd the other team. If they lost first map, they got 3-0'd every time. And they still did enough to go 2-3 and qualify. And the series against Boston, I know there was this kind of server drama about the fact that Boston were on 70 ping and Thieves were probably on 45 ping plus the minimum latency tool, which is meant to even the playing field, I guess. And even if you take that into account, the manner in which Boston got demolished in this series was unbelievable. Like, I don't know if this is the quickest series in CDL history, but it can't have been far off. It was a 100-point club, 6-0.
Must have been close,
and it was a fast 6-0. Like, it wasn't, these rounds weren't slow. They were just running at them and gunning them down. Yeah, I think 21, 22 minutes across I think game one was probably like 8 minutes, 7-8 minutes. I think it was like 7 minutes 52 or something, if I'm remembering the number right.
Yeah.
And the search was 5 minutes, and the control was actually about 9 minutes because Berlin, can get kind of slow, even though it was a 3-0. So it was 20 and a bit minutes for in-game time in the series, and the entire series took, even including the breaks and stuff, about 40 minutes, which is just incredible given you have an hour and a half to play. So that was just ridiculous. And I thought it was funny what Jacob said after. He was like, okay, we just got to make that consistent. And Looney was like, if you could do that consistently, you're the best coach of all time. So I think that was kind of on both sides. Thieves played well, but Boston didn't. But the thing is with Thieves, and this is a crazy stat that I saw as well. We talked about the OpTic kind of KD earlier. Thieves have a team KD, the worst in the game. Their team KD this season is a 0.94. Paris are even better with a 0.95. I think Temp is carrying the hell out of them there because he has like a 1.13. But
I saw a post on Reddit and it said that, and then it also had like the same thread, and it was like, Thieves 3-0 Boston, the shortest series of the season. But they also had the worst KDs in the league. Like, it's just Vanguard for you, man. I don't know how many times.
It's Vanguard, it's true. But it's also Thieves because like they have some tendency to just get worked. I don't know what it like. It's some series they look okay, but I think that one of the reasons why they have the worst team KD is that whenever they get beaten, one of them will just drop like a 0.7 or worse. And it's either Keddy or it's Envoy right now. The ARs are doing all right. But I mean, the OpTic series was a great example. Like Envoy dropped at 0.6. He had a really tough time. And it happens sometimes when you get 3-0'd, but it's like this team is way too prone to just getting absolutely bodied. And they're now officially in the bottom 4. If the standings are as they are, they don't make champs. And if you look at the teams around them, like I'm just going to bring up the standings real quick here. Like if you look at the teams around them, the teams below the Mutineers, New York, who are going to, probably move up the rankings, and Legion, of course, at bottom. But the teams immediately above them are Surge, Rocker, and Ultra. All teams that are better than them. So if Thieves want to make champs, they have to hope effectively that Ravens, Breach, and Gorillas get like no points for the rest of the year, and like those teams drop down into the drop zone, which is possible, especially for Gorillas and potentially Breach. And London might just about have enough. But Thieves are in such a precarious position, and I think it's not being talked about that much, especially because if you look at the brackets, they play Rocker round 1. I mean, we can talk about the fact that they they ended up playing Rocker round 1 in the seconds, but they got 3-0'd by Rocker in the group stages. If they lose that, they play Boston, which, you know, if they 3 them again on land, fair play. And if they win that one, they probably play either Toronto or FaZe, which they probably lose. So there's a plausible world in which Thieves this tournament come top 8, getting 10 points, which is, you know, which puts them in a really tough spot for Major 4. Because if that is how things go, and they actually get top 8 here, then like I don't see how this team can stick together. But then again, I can't see how they. I don't know what move they make. So I don't know. They're in trouble right now, Lion.
Yeah. Well, for this stage, it seems like they were just trying to test out every single map and mode combination because they only didn't play Gav control. And if we look at it, they went 0-1 on Berlin hardpoint, 0-1 on Bocage hardpoint, 2-1 on Gav, Tuscan 0-1. It's like they only won 3 map and mode combinations out of all of them. So they went 2-1 on Gav, 2-1 on Berlin SND, and then 2-3 on Control Berlin. And then the rest they all lost. Every single other map and mode combo. Which is an interesting stat, because it shows that they were trying to test out other maps, but it also means veto Gav hardpoint, veto Berlin SND, and veto Berlin Control when you're going to beat them 10 times out of 10. They have no depth in terms of maps at all. I mean, if you look at their stats, Kenny's got a 0.8 in hardpoint. Envoy's got a 0.7. That's your SMG duo. That's a 0.7.
Oh man, that makes me cringe. That's tough.
That is bad. The only person that's going positive in respawn is Octane, and he's got a 1.29, and he's outslaying. He's got 7 more kills than anyone else on his team per 10 minutes in hardpoint. What is that? He's there.
What is going on? This is actually Seattle Surge Modern Warfare Octane right here. Do you know how that team did at events?
As soon as his team starts playing shit, he's like, all right, boys, time for me to kill her.
I'm here. Bang, bang, bang. 1.4, 1.4.
I'm going to slay these guys. But yeah, and then Envoy's killing it in Search and Destroy, and then everyone else is playing like shit. He's got a 1.41. Everyone else looks like dog wank. And then in Control, they look okay. I mean, they're 2 and 4 in Control, but it's really their hard point. Actually, no, they're 2 and 4 in every mode. They're just average.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense actually because 3 every series, but yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about this team anymore. There's no more superlatives to really dish out because it's either they're frying or they're looking like the worst team in the game.
That's
and
impressive.
when they win, it's when Octane drops a fucking 1.8, which is so Seattle Surge. You're right. That's the perfect way to put it. Not Seattle Surge now, because Seattle Surge now, we know. Fire.
We know.
Last year, Octane. That was all. So maybe that brings up the point. Maybe Octane outslaying is actually the problem. We need him to drop a 1, not a 1.3.
Octane stand in spawn, get no kills, and the team will win.
In the hill. He's got the most hill time and the most kills. How is that even possible?
I don't know what their SMG Joe is doing after time. I really don't understand it.
Yeah, and we look at their first bloods in SND. Their first bloods in SND, they are, let me count this up, 13, 20, 30, and 19, and then they're 2 and 4 in the mode.
That's actually absurd.
1.5 KD in first bloods, and they're 2 and 4. It's like what? Throwing rounds like no man's business, and then Kenny is just fucking 3 and 9 in first bloods. He's just running head first, 0.83 KD, killing it.
Shane, man, you got to figure out what's going on. Calm your boys down because Jacob don't know what's going on.
No idea. He's fucking frazzled.
Great. What do you think?
I mean, I said last week, I think this team's chalked. Like, yeah, they had the shortest series of the year and maybe of all time in CDL history, but I think the team's chalked. And like, I said the exact same last week. I think they waited too long to make a roster move. Like, everyone's scooped up unless they want to drop the bag on Scrappy, which I don't think Ultra let go of them because they're not looking perfect at the moment. But I still think the team's chalked in, and I hope that the 3-0 for Boston didn't give them false hope that they've turned it around. I suppose they got absolutely demolished by the next day.
Yeah,
But
Boston also look like the worst fucking team ever. So it's
Yeah.
like, of
And
course.
I don't
then
think they do well. Yeah, I don't think they do well at the major. I don't think they beat Rocket. They moved down to losers. They face Breach, where they'll either 3-0 them or lose 0-3. Like who knows? And
Yeah.
after that they play probably Ultra FaZe. But I don't think they beat either of those teams.
No.
So I think they have another shit in. I don't know what they do. Because
Yeah.
in my opinion, I haven't been watching challenges that much, but I don't think Pentagram is the answer. But then again, there's been players that have not looked great and have turned teams around, like ProLute and I mean Kismet is not the best statistical player, but he does other things for the team. But I don't think Pentagram's the answer. And I know a lot of people want him in, but I mean I think his amateur team I think is like the 13th seed in North America or something, or like the 11th seed. I don't think they've made an elite. I said all this last week as well. Like I don't know what Thieves do when they shed the bed this tournament, because I don't think they go that far. I really don't.
No.
That's
Such
the
a weird
issue
team.
because like they talked about going into this year that like their goal is to just make championship Sundays, you know, and eventually they're going to win one. And that's the thing. They don't have the luxury of London or Boston or these like LAG, right? Teams that right now aren't very good, but at least they got top 3s, top 4s, won it in LAG's case to actually give themselves some points. Their record at majors is top 6 at major 1, top 8 at major 2. If they do another top 8, like, don't tell me this team's going to be the team like that actually is going to win champs or something. This is not going to happen, is it? Okay, let's get second at the Prime Classic, but single limb, they beat dysfunctional teams in their group. So, yeah, I don't know. Not impressed with them at all. Let's talk though, because man, what a ridiculous Sunday we had. Because Thieves played OpTic final series. We're going to discuss the whole tiebreaker banter in a second here. Thought, Lion?
I wanted to say, how do we know if they threw that series? They look bad enough to look that bad anyway.
That's the funny thing about what JCap was saying, because JCap was trying to be like, oh, no, we didn't throw. That was perfectly legit. So I'm like, okay, you just got 3-0'd by Florida then.
You got 3-0.
Once I saw Tommy guns, I knew.
I knew it was
maybe not throwing, but not trying. I think someone already said that they weren't trying as hard as they could have been.
Which is kind of the same thing. To be honest.
Pretty much.
They definitely would try to lose at times because like they won a couple of rounds. It was the control that was cracking me up because I was like, they had the game in the palm of their hands and they were just making plays to throw their lives. And man,
I couldn't even watch it, man. It was like, I don't even want to watch this.
It was funny for game 1, and then after that, I was like,
Yeah, it
please
was
3-0
funny.
so I can go to bed.
They've done that though all year. We've seen them throw shit like that. Like it's
okay, doing his 360 off top on Desert Siege. That was actually a proper series. That wasn't even a bloody tiebreaker.
Yeah, but then that OpTic series earlier in the year where they were like outslayed by like 100 and then were still game 5, they were round 10, could have closed it out and then they choked those 2 rounds. It's like, that's just been a theme for LA Thieves for I would say the last 2 years. Like they can't even close out a series even when they're in a dominant position and were destroyed the whole series. They put themselves in place to win and then choke it anyway.
They can't even get to game 5 nowadays.
Yeah, no.
But before we even got there, we've got to talk about the bloody Florida versus Boston thing because, man, this was unbelievable.
So bad for them.
And like, if this didn't happen, we wouldn't have had the tiebreaker stuff because if Boston won, then they got winners and Florida got losers. But that's not what happened. I predicted Florida to win, and I was like, how the hell have Florida won 2 maps here? Because I feel like the game 1 was just like, they shouldn't have won that one. And I think they won the control or whatever they won was a bit suspect. I'm surprised they won it anyway. Goes game 5. Boston, I thought, well, it's Berlin search. Like, Boston should be better at this map. And I thought, Florida just have no clutch. Which was proved wrong because they go down 5-2. Boston have a streak on TJ. And you've got to give Boston some flack for choking the 5-2 lead. You know, even to let it get to 5-5 definitely deserves some credit on Florida's side, but also some criticism on Boston's side. But then the game crashes, right? Classic Vanguard. We absolutely love to see it. It's an absolute all-timer that game crashes game 5 round 11. But in fairness, there's worse times for games to crash because it's now literally a 1 round, and there's been so much talk about this because some people have said, look, maybe you should have asked the teams, do you want to play the one round or do you want to just replay the map and say, look, we're just going to chalk it off, start from scratch and just go again, better team wins, which might be the better way to do it than do a, just a one round. Because I think both teams would probably say, for something of this importance, like both teams are 1 in 3, winner gets bracket, loser doesn't get the bracket. It was so crucial. And then, of course, the key point was that when they did replay just the single round, I guess the admin just made the call, right? That, okay, no, we're going to replay the rounds. We're going to do it from, 5-5 as it was. And they don't decide to give TJ his streak back. He has a glide bomb. They could have done it if they really wanted to. They could have taken the extra couple of minutes to let TJ get the kills, get the score, and give him the glide bomb. They didn't do it. He doesn't have the glide. I'm sure Boston were mentally in the bin already. Florida win the round. They win the series. An awful look, I thought, for the CDL because there's so many better ways this could have been handled. And if this was just like another series, it would have been a big deal, but I wouldn't have minded it so much. But a situation like this just reminds me so much of when the CDL first went online back in 2020, and it was just a shambles every day. And it doesn't seem like they've learned that much. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yes. Well, that series itself was, it was pretty close. But to be honest, I just wasn't very interested, to be fair, who was going to make winners bracket. I did favor Florida the whole time. But the series that I really wanted to see and I thought would be exciting was the LA Thieves Florida tiebreaker, and then it just was shit.
The shambles, absolute shambles.
Yeah. I think you're right. They probably should have found a way to give him his glide bomb back because that is such a huge advantage in one round of S&D.
But Florida would have just put him cold-blooded, right? Because now they know that he definitely has one. Yeah, if they didn't know already.
That's such a good point, right? They get the free information there. That's a great point.
Yeah, they check Twitter. Oh, he's got a glide bomb. Everyone chuck cold-blooded on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how we're in 2022 and they can't just put, okay, we're just going to put a glide bomb on TJ. How's that not a thing? I feel like we're so behind. We're so behind.
I swear you could do that in previous games. Couldn't you do that in
Cold War had it, I think.
Cold War?
Cold War last year had the pause feature, but it only worked on LAN or online. One of the two. Online.
I think it only worked on Search, or maybe they only did it on Search.
Yeah.
Because hardpoint you can't really pause it, and then okay, everyone get ready to slide cancel.
You're just mid gunfight,
They do it in Overwatch. There's some crazy shit going on in Overwatch, and they pause it, and everyone's doing their ult and doing flips and cartwheels and all those types of things. But yeah, I don't know how we still you can't just put a glide onto a player. How's that not a thing? I don't know. I feel like they still don't care about us.
It's a 1 year cycle, man. I think in Modern Warfare 2, they'll probably by the second year have all those things involved, but I doubt they'll have it in the
Major 4.
Yeah.
This is the thing, what we saw, the details about the fact that a lot of the franchise owners haven't paid most of the money yet, right? It's all being deferred because of the pandemic and stuff. So if you're a franchise owner, you see this, you're like, hang on, Activision, you promised us XYZ, how good this product was going to be, how good you were going to promote it, and we can't even have basic features in year 3 of our game. You're not getting your money until you actually uphold your end of the agreement. You know what I mean? So I think that they have the ball is in their court to a degree to actually make their league not a shambles, which would help. And then even worse than that, maybe not worse than that, but I think that was bad enough. But it even took away the focus. Really was on the tiebreaker game because I mentioned it in a video, the way these tiebreakers could work, and I think it's incredibly rare and unlikely that will happen, but it turned out that Thieves and Mutineers had basically played all the same teams, had exactly the same map win percentage, hadn't played each other, so there wasn't a head-to-head tiebreaker. They had the same map win percentage, so you couldn't separate them there. I guess they could add another tiebreaker, so it's because Thieves were 6 in 9 map count, and I think Florida were 8 in 12. So you could say, well, we're going to do it on maps 1 or something, which is maybe a bit of a stupid way, but you could have tie-breaking it to Mutineers in that sense. But they said map win percentage, and then it goes to strength of schedule that they probably thought would never be tied. But it turned out that both teams had basically played the same teams outside of I think it was Florida had played LAG and London were playing Thieves. And magically, both of those teams were perfectly tied, 1 in 4 with exactly the same map win-loss. So we had a tiebreaker match. Now, the thing is, the ball is in their court to a degree to actually make their league not a shambles, which would help. And then even worse than that, maybe you should have asked the teams, do you want to play the one round or do you want to just replay the map? And of course, the implication was here that if you win this tiebreaker game, you get the 7th seed. If you lose it, you get the 8th seed. And the problem was that with the winners bracket turned out to be OpTic number 2 seed, Rocker number 1 seed. So Rocker, great team, dominant force. In fairness, both of these teams 3-0'd Thieves. So who knows who you would rather play. But you might think if you're Thieves, look, OpTic, we just don't match up well against them now. We have a better, our maps work better against Rocker. And maybe Florida think the same. They think, well, look, if we, we don't really want to win. Like, we don't seem to match up, even though they do kind of match up okay against OpTic. But they might think, look, our map count, our map kind of, the way we like to pick our maps, maybe Rocker are kind of happy on Bocage lately, and Florida like it as well. Let's maybe go to the Rocker game if they got to choose. Now, they don't get to choose, and therefore both teams effectively had an incentive to just lose the series. And the CDL were joking about it, right? It was kind of joking in the as you pointed out, Craig, I was actually going to tweet it, and then you tweeted it just before, so I thought, your capture was good. But it was like, look, are they basically promoting throwing? Because they were joking around saying like throwing to take a couple of team kills. Like if your Thieves don't bounce back from the loss because you don't want to win because you'll play OpTic again. But the problem is those jokes kind of fall flat when the team actually does throw the game. Because as you say, like it's not like they were throwing, but they were clearly not trying to win as much as they could. Like it doesn't take a COD genius to look at that map and realize that players were literally just running out of the hard point, and it was the lowest ever number of points that's won a hardpoint game in COD history. They won with 172 points, which has never happened before. The lowest it's been even on this game on bloody Bocage hardpoint is at 190.
Was it the first time we saw Tommy gun on hardpoint?
Don't tell me that was legit. Sorry, say that again, Craig.
I think it was the first time we saw Tommy gun on Bocage hardpoint too. I know we saw it on S&D once. Paris Legion pulled it out, but I knew from then I was like, these guys are not trying. They do not care about this match. And to be frank, neither did I. I thought it was going to be a cool concept, but it's like they didn't care. I think what Egg said is a good point that they should be able to pick. I'm not sure if they would work out though at the end of it all, but if they got to pick who they play, I think that would have been better. It would have been much more competitive, and they would have tried.
Yeah. You mentioned the maps, LA Thieves, like the reason why they would throw to play Rocker. The only maps that Thieves won in the stage, which were Gav Hardpoint, Berlin S&D, and Berlin Control, those are 2 of the maps out of the 3 that Rocker lost. So that does have a little bit of weight to it, because they went flawless in everything apart from Gav and Bocage Hardpoint, and then Berlin S&D. So it makes sense, but I think Rocker still have better records regardless. It's just that's the only weakness they showed in the stage. But yeah, Rocker looked ridiculous, but it is online, so we'll see. I don't think playing Rocker or OpTic is a very good. I don't think it's not really even throw worthy. Like, why would you throw against to play against Rocker instead? It's just whatever. They look fucking so good, so doesn't matter who you're playing, you're gonna lose. Sorry, Thieves. Just saying.
If they do lose, they're getting ultra roasted. That's the issue that they have. But it's not like Florida were trying that hard either. Like they won the games and they looked sad. So it's it's funny that Thieves were getting all the flack, but it's not like Florida were also. Florida didn't seem too keen to win either, to be perfectly honest. They were also putting out the snipers and doing stuff in the search. And maybe they didn't feel like it mattered too much for their perspective. But yeah, just a tough one. And the thing is, Rocker, I'm sure they're thinking, well, I got to, the absolute disrespect the CDL is showing us and the orgs are showing us and everyone on Twitter is showing us that people are trying to throw to play us. And they're going to come with a fire against Thieves, I'm sure. And if Thieves lose that, they're going to get ultra roasted, which I'm sure is going to be weighing on their mind to a degree. But yeah, another 3-0 loss for Thieves. So congratulations. You keep up the record. But yeah, do you have any thoughts, Crane, before we go on to the major stuff?
The CDL posting about the throwing, I thought it was funny. I'm a funny dude. I laugh at pretty much anything, and I thought it was funny. But I do try to look at things from everyone's perspective, and I know from a team owner's perspective and from a professionalism perspective and player's perspective, probably shouldn't have done it. I don't feel like you should be promoting throwing, even if it is a joke. I know it was funny. I think Daniel, the GM, said, they try to push the limit of memeing and joking, but he did say that this one shouldn't have went up. And I probably agree with him. I did think it was funny, and I know a lot of people did, but I think you cross the line. You put your toe over the line just a little bit right there. I don't think you should be promoting throwing. Like that's not. I don't think that was the right thing to do. But it was funny. Don't get me wrong.
Everyone else can just fine.
Yeah,
just not.
Yeah. Like leave that up to me, Gersh, and the social media managers of the CDL pages, but not
It'll be
your
like
own league.
if the UFC memed someone getting knocked out on their social media.
Yeah.
Like it's like, ooh,
yeah. Don't
just
do
a
that.
bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah, it's like, are we a professional league or are we not? Because like, I don't think we're meant to match fix. Isn't that like against the rules?
It'll be in the rule book.
It's definitely against
People
the
have money
rules.
on these types of things, so it's kind of serious.
That's a good point, actually. It's a great point.
They're promoting match fixing on their own socials. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just CDL doing CDL, to be honest. But they got to think about that one because I thought people were saying it was a joke, but I'm like, I don't know. I think that stuff
I thought it was funny, but it was wrong.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the series, as I said, the joke is funny if it's actually a joke, not when the teams actually do it. But
like you said, leave it up to everyone else to meme. Leave it up to the community.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the standings real quick. If you can bring up the standings, Omar, just the current CDL point standings this season with FaZe on 210, OpTic on 205, Paris on 20, baby. They're killing it. But I just wanted to just touch on this real quick before we talk about the major, just to hammer the point home of how important every single point is here, because only top 8 go to champs. Is it up, Omar, on screen? Let me know in the chat or something if it is. But assuming it is, we've got an absolute banger situation here because New York, despite having a good stage and going 3-2, they are further behind champs qualification now than they were before. They were 20 points behind. Now they're 30 points behind, even though they've been doing quite well. Because Surge went 4-1, Ultra went 4-1, Rocker went 5-0, and have all passed Thieves on 90. Mutineers, I think, honestly, kind of might be chalked. They still have 3 ARs. I don't really rate their team. I don't think we really do either. But the real spicy thing to me is what's going on with Breach, London, and Gorillas. I don't know. I was talking about this before we went live, right? Like if you guys are from the UK or whatever, or I'm sure this is the thing in other sports as well, but it's always been the thing in the Premier League, where it's like if you get 40 points, you're considered to be, that's probably a number that's going to keep you safe in the league and not get relegated. And usually that's about right. But we have no idea here in the CDL what the number is you probably need in order to be safe. We don't know. Is it 140? Is it 125? Because Gorillas can definitely be overtaken. Like there's easily 4 teams below them that can overtake Gorillas throughout this major and then the next major, which means that Gorillas are not safe. And if Gorillas aren't safe on 125, Breach probably aren't safe on 130. Given the resurgence, pun kind of intended, that Seattle, Rocker and Ultra have had, and the Subliners a little bit further below them. So it's really exciting because I was wondering whether London, Breach and Gorillas would just kind of be safe and they'd have enough. And it was going to be a fight between 6 actually better teams than those 3 just mentioned for the final 3 spots. But it actually might be that even Gorillas having won Major 2 could be out of there. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think about this? Because I think London is still somehow 3rd, despite being one of the worst teams right now. Sorry, Odie, but it's just true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's craziness, right?
It's because 3, 4, and 5, London, Boston, and LAG all look terrible now. And they all scored 10 points in the Major 3 qualifiers. Whereas Surge, Rocker, Ultra scored, let's take a look, 40, 50, 40. Yeah.
They all look good. They all look real good. They need to be flipped.
Like top 4 teams now. Top 4, top 5. They actually probably are the top 4. It's probably OpTic and then those 3. And they've just sneaked into the top 8. And so it sucks for New York because obviously New York this whole year haven't scored any points at majors. So on land, they look kind of dog unless it was the Pro-Am. So I'm hoping that they can put up a big fight, but it's just, it's worked out terribly. The teams that started well at the start of the year are way too far ahead of them to be even close. And then the teams next to them are better than them. So it's a really sticky situation because I was hopeful for New York because they've come so far, but they just started off the year so incredibly bad that they're in such a big hole. Like they were worse than Paris in stage 1. Even though they won a match, they were worse. Like their hard point was terrible.
Or in 13 or whatever.
Yeah, and so I just don't want their highlight of the year to be a Pro-Am win that no one cares about because Hydra is having an unbelievable season. He's like 3 years or 2 years in a row where he's been top 5 SMG easily, but he's just not had the pieces around him to really get him across the line to that top level. So I think that's what will come out of this year. I think they probably won't make champs. And then Hydra will go to a team that allows him to flourish more. Maybe FaZe make a change and bring in Hydra, maybe OpTic, maybe he goes to the top.
Oh my
team.
god!
I think he's
Getting
superstar
me all
enough to go
excited.
to a team like that. Yeah, I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it.
He needs to be on a team where he can actually, show his full potential. Because
and he's marketable well as well. Like he's handsome as hell. Like I think he does funny content. Yeah. Like I think he could legit land. I know we're way too early right now, but I think he could legit land on a big franchise on the off season if Sublime doesn't work out.
Him for Bants on Toronto.
That's an interesting
That would be weird. That'd be weird.
It would work though, because he's a roaming SMG. He's a slaying SMG, and he'll be playing with CleanX, who's an entry. Those two together with their pace would be amazing. And then you've got Cammy and Insight. If they're playing at the level they're playing at now, that team could be ridiculous. They could be top 3 easy. I
could see Thieves reseeding and just grabbing Hydra.
Thieves is the kind of key org I'm keeping my eyes on for Hydra potentially, just because I think that I don't know. People are saying that I saw people discussing the other day that Sublime is not going to let him go, but the thing is they don't necessarily have the choice because
I think he could just
Hydra's at the end of his contract at the end of this year because the 1+1. And if he wants to walk, he can walk. They might try and pay him the bag, but if he wants to go, he can go if he's got a better offer. So
I don't want to see him go to Thieves because every time a player goes to Thieves, they get dropped on their head or their stock goes straight through the fucking floor. So I don't want to see that at all. I know the brand's amazing, cool, but your team sucks, bro.
Eventually, they have to turn it around, right? I don't know.
Will they?
They're probably just going to clear house. I don't know what they're going to do. But all I'll say about New York is that, yes, they're quite a way behind, but if they have 2 great majors back to back, if they can go back to back top 3 or top 4, top 2 or something, they should make it. If they win, they get 65 points, which puts them at 135. So it's never chalked. But there's just so many other good teams around them that have more points. That's their issue. So they kind of need to hope that Gorillas Breach in London just completely shit the bed for the entire rest of the season, and or Ultra Rocker and Surge somehow become bad immediately. So I think it's New York and Thieves that are in the most precarious situations, in my opinion. It's
sad looking at subliners down there, knowing that they want to pro him. It's kind of just thrown away. Sitting down second. It's so weird to see them down there when they should
spent
be
too long
sitting,
faffing around with their bloody team.
Yeah.
That's the mistake they made. I mean, they actually made a change after literally week 1, but they still spent too long faffing around before they got a good roster.
Yeah, I think they won maybe 5 or 6 team changes or something.
They still have a chance. The whole royalty out, royalty in, Neptune back in, Neptune back out, that chalked their season, unfortunately. But they can still make it. I still have faith. Let's do the bracket, Omar. We'll do this. We're not going to predict the entire bracket because I think our opinions will be too split and there's too many matches to predict. And this is one of the hardest brackets to call I think I've ever seen, really. So what I want to do is go through round 1, winners round 1, and just predict who we think is getting out of winners round 1 on Thursday. Then we're going to do tournament winner, and we're going to do dark horse run to the grand finals or the champion, let's just say. So let's do winners round 1. Rocker Thieves is the first. I mean, I'm just going to go from top to bottom, even though I think that's the last series of the day. Look, Lion, I'll start with you because I think this might go a very similar way to where their series went during the regular stage, to be honest.
Yeah, Rocker Thieves. It really depends if Thieves get their 3 maps that they can win a map on. If they do, then they might win a map. If they don't, they're not winning a map and they're going to drop down to face Breach and then probably leave again. So I think, 3-0 Rocker. I think we can all agree on that.
I'm down to go for that just because we get the sweet, sweet juice out of that one. That would be succulent, wouldn't it, really? If everything works out like that and Thieves through to play Rocker and then they get bodied anyway. So I'm always biased on the side of content, unfortunately. That's just life. So that's the way I'm going to go. Ultra FaZe, this man. Yeah. Well, I agree. The 2 series that are most exciting here are Ultra FaZe and Surge Subliners without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion. This series is great. As I said, like, when's the last time these? I think did these guys play each other early this year? They probably did, right? At some point, I think FaZe probably won because FaZe basically beat everyone that is an OpTic until this stage, which is spicy. But yeah, this I think is when FaZe are probably the most vulnerable that they have been in a long time. They don't look great, and pretty much all their game modes are suspect, right? Their search is maybe a bit better, but not been great. Their control has not been the dominant force it was last year and guaranteed map win. And then you've got Ultra, who, and of course, FaZe's Hardpoint, despite looking really good briefly for kind of the Prime Classic and the start of Major 3 qualifiers, has now come off the boil, most certainly, in the way they lost to OpTic and the way they've now lost to the Minnesota Rocker. So Ultra have a great shot here. Like, in terms of power rankings, FaZe is still above them, and I would probably take FaZe here as 55% or 60% favourites. But I think this is Ultra's best chance to beat them in a long time. And I mean, look, it's FaZe at a major. It's tough to, I feel like they're still going to be in the grand final somehow. But man, this is tough to call, like, given the way these two teams have been performing lately.
Yeah, right now, Toronto look like the best they've looked all year. And FaZe look like the worst they've looked all year. But this year, they've played each other 3 times, and Toronto have lost all 3. So matchup-wise on this game, it's been really bad for Toronto. I just think that in this current situation where both teams are, if Ultra can get over that hurdle and actually take it to them, which they haven't really been able to in the past. They've only, beat them 1 or 2 times ever since, I think they beat them in, Cold War? Not Cold War. Yeah, they beat them in Cold War once.
Once, I think.
Once. And then they beat them in Modern Warfare once.
In the grand finals of that Toronto major. And that's the thing, right? Toronto home series, they won it. Yes, it was online, but we're here at the Toronto major, right? People are saying it in the chat. Like, home crowds, FaZe, like, honestly, the amount of FaZe boos and the crowd is going to be like more against FaZe than you've ever seen, because it's like going to be a kind of an OpTic crowd, but also a Toronto crowd. So, you know, I did the overrated thing earlier, and I'm sure you guys already got the clip, so I'm not going to do it again. But those chants are going to be coming through. So
I think
it's going game 5. I think it's going game 5.
I think game 5 Toronto. Because
I'm gonna go with FaZe. I'm going FaZe. You said FaZe are at their worst right now, but I think FaZe at their worst is still better than 10 of the teams.
You think they're better than Toronto right now?
I wouldn't say that, but it's a major, it's LAN, it's anything can happen, man.
Yeah, you're right.
I think FaZe win game 5.
I got to decide who's going through. It's actually really tough. I mean, look, I'm going to go with the numbers I said earlier. What do you think? Lion? Any final thoughts before I break your heart?
Say Toronto and then leave it up to you. 3-2 Toronto.
I think it's going game 5 as well, but I don't know, because FaZe are a weird team right now, because I actually think they get shook sometimes. Like, they're a team where when things don't go their way, they actually start to get a bit shook. And I don't know if the crowd will have that impact here, but the issue is that FaZe Ultra is a series that historically and with these player matchups has always favored FaZe. So I don't think they'll have the same issue. So I think I'm going to take FaZe 3-2, because I think that FaZe are going to somehow make a run to the winners final again. Maybe not, actually. Who knows? I want to get the FaZe Rocker rematch, actually. So I think FaZe just edge it. I think it's going to be super close, but I have to go with the numbers and say that FaZe are probably marginally favourites here. Okay, so Rocker advance, FaZe advance, OpTic Mutineers. I don't know if we have to talk about this one too much, just because I think the Mutineers are probably the best round 1 matchup that OpTic could have hoped for. But at the same time, Mutineers has kind of been a dodgy team for OpTic. Like, they lost to them in stage 2 to knock them out of the tournament top 6. Of course, the same team they have now. And Mutineers are always a bit of a, I don't know if I've used this term to describe this team specifically, but kind of like a banana peel team, like easy to slip up on. And
definitely used that. Yes.
I've definitely used that before, probably for this specific team, but it is, I think, true. But I think OpTic, honestly, they lost last time to Surge round 1. They got 3-0'd when they went 5-0 map count or 5-0 series count. I think this time will be a bit different. They'll come in like very focused and prepared, and they should just be better than Mutineers on pure talent, because I think right now I'm not particularly convinced by the way that any of the Mutineers guys are playing. And like, they will probably get outslayed off the face of the earth if OpTic play their game. So I don't know, OpTic 3-1 maybe is what I'd say here. What do you reckon, Chrome?
3-1 too. 3-1. I think the only map Mutineers win is just some random map where Awakening drops a 1.6.
I think this team, they match up better with PROLUTE because of his slaying prowess and his less methodical gameplay. It's more aggression based. and that matches up with Mutineers because I think Illey, with his slower, more methodical play style, it kind of allowed Mutineers to kind of rush in and cause a bit of chaos. Whereas OpTic
I think
now,
Prolute's playing like the challenger style.
Yeah,
a little bit different to the
challenges. You're right.
Yeah.
So I think this should be probably a 3-1. I think maybe Mutineers will steal maybe a map 1 hard point. But
map 1 or
can't
map
see
2, I think they might trade it out.
I don't think
map
they'll
1.
be S&D though, because OpTic's S&D looks crazy right now. I mean, and their control. It's really their hard point that's been the only thing that I've been a little bit.
They might play Gavutu again and get, you know what happened before with OpTic, that Gavutu round where they spawn behind them or something. It'd be crazy if we kind of got a repeat of that, because Mutiny seem to like that map a fair bit. They might play a Bocage as well. Mutiny seem to be comfortable on a fair bit, but they won't play Berlin or something, so they don't have to play Shotzi on Berlin, I'd imagine. So, okay, so OpTic go through, and then the final series of winners is, man, this is an absolute blockbuster. I think this is the first series that they actually Surge subliners. I know you guys are like confident on Surge. Man, I don't know how to call this one. It's both of these teams, and we talked about it earlier. Where their suspect is in their search, and I don't know how either team would really perform if they go game 5. All I know is that both of these teams lost to Toronto game 5. So the ice might not be there. Their search and destroy isn't necessarily there, but their respawn gameplay for both teams is phenomenal. Like Surge have great stats in terms of just pure slaying, and also they win a lot. Subliners don't have the craziest KDs, but they win an awful lot. Like their hardpoint and their control now are both very good. And it's going to be so crazy to see how these two teams clash in those game modes. They're both going to be very well prepared for this series. I think it's going to come down to search and destroy. I think that honestly, they're going to probably split the respawns one way or another, and it's going to be whoever can ice up in a game 5. And I honestly have slightly more faith in Surge, I think, in Game 5 just because of accuracy, but I do think that Subliners are going to win. I think they're going to find a way to win and make a bit of a run because, I don't know, part of me just wants to see the OpTic Subliners rematch in round 2. But I also am kind of just hoping that New York can make a run in this tournament and get to champs. So I'm basically just taking them to win on that reason so they at least get some points on the board in top 6 or better. What do we reckon, boys? I don't know how to call this one.
I think it's a coin flip. Yeah, I agree. I'm big on Surge, but I still think that Subliners can do it. Oh, and 100%. But I will go with Game 5 Surge, and Sib absolutely destroys everyone this series.
Okay.
Are you with it? You agree?
No, I think it will be a 3-1 with Surge winning every single respawn.
3-1.
And New York taking the map 2 SND. I just think
if New York get blown out in the respawns, I'll be surprised. But I think it's possible.
You'll be surprised? Really?
The respawn's disgusting. I don't know, like that. Both teams are great, but I mean, I'd be surprised if they lose all 3 respawns here, Subliners, based on how they've been playing lately. But it's maybe I'll be surprised.
Maybe. So I think, so I guess we picked Surge because me and Cron both went Surge.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, I knew you were going to go Surge to get Subliners, really.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying not to be biased, but yeah.
Exactly. It's the one guy we have. I mean,
we've got to do it, really. I mean, come on. It would be a crime against Pred not to go for Surge in this series.
Exactly.
Given their potential.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got Rocker, we've got FaZe, OpTic, and Surge all making top 6. Now, what we're going to do to close out the episode, also, thanks to all those in the chat right now. Like, you guys have been killing it. We have, like, almost 1,000 viewers across both Twitch and YouTube, which is, like, literally double our, like, previous podcast record of concurrent viewers. So that's absolute killer. But let's do our winners. And I'm not going to start because I need to think about this. You've got to pick a winner. Should we do winner and dark horse at the same time? Should we just do winner first? Do winner and dark horse at the same time. So we've got to pick a tournament winner. And I genuinely think there's like 7 teams that can win this tournament, I think. Like everyone in winners. Okay, not Thieves. 6 teams. I forgot about Thieves. I reckon there's 6 teams that can win this tourney. I reckon you've got OpTic FaZe, and then Ultra, Surge, Subliners, and Rocker. All those 6 can win. I don't see anyone else winning, but who knows? Maybe someone does a crazy losers run. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll give it to you, Crone, first, because I need to think of it. So if you need time, then throw it back to me.
I mean, Surge count as a dark horse, right?
I think Surge counts as a dark horse.
Yeah, I would probably pick Surge for my dark horse, and I want them to win, but realistically, actually I'm gonna stick with Surge because I said Surge. I'm gonna pick and Surge for both to win and for the dark horse.
I love that. I love that. That's class.
I was gonna say another team, but I was like, no, I'll stick with what I've been going with. I don't want to pick the easy option out.
Yeah. So like if we looked at Major 2, we had no expectation at all for LAG to run it up like they did. And so I
No.
can't imagine picking a team on this game that's like a safe option because it's probably just as likely that a team that we don't expect to win is going to win. So I think I was going to say Surge, but they're going to be my dark horse and I'll pick a different winner. I think Toronto will win this
Wow.
this stage, yeah. I think they've found that pacing and they've found that cohesion that they've been looking for all season, that teamwork that we knew would come in at some point. And we talked about it earlier with the pressure from the substitutes and everything, and I think they've got a lot to prove, but not that much pressure on them as well at the same time. So it's like there's not much scrutiny. They've kind of stayed at this consistently below average level, and now it's like, what can they do?
I mean, they are at home though, so there's a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, but they're all European, so they're not at home at all.
I mean, they're kind of at home. Because it's a halfway house, halfway home.
They're gonna have the crowd for sure.
Yeah, they will. But that is only going to help them, I think. But it didn't help Rocker, did it? They got bullied.
Well, they were
think
unlucky
you could
though
help
because
them
they played
again.
OpTic losers round 1, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, and the crowd was like more in favor of the away team, which sucked.
Crowd was trying. I think the crowd did a good job in Minnesota actually.
They did. They've got the loud clacky thingies.
Yeah, they tried their best, but unfortunately, Rocker and losers, so it's tough scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to alter to win Surge Dark Horse. This is nice because I get to make more traditional picks here. It's funny because I was almost going to say FaZe are my dark horse because like FaZe, I don't know if I can actually do that because FaZe aren't really a dark horse, but you know what I mean? Because I think people are kind of writing FaZe off a little bit. And FaZe is still FaZe, but I actually don't think they're going to do it. Yeah, FaZe dark horse. I'm actually faded. I don't think FaZe. I think FaZe might come top 3 this event. I don't know how it's going to go, but I don't know if they're going to make another grand finals just because I think that top 6 is so stacked. Like you're going to have OpTic, Surge, New York. Like who knows if a team from losers can do something as well? But you're going to have all these teams, Rocker, Ultra, all there or thereabouts, and I think FaZe are going to have a really hard time winning enough series against these teams with their respawns looking the way they look right now. Like they're not good enough in respawn, I think, to win some of these series comfortably, and eventually they're going to start falling short in game 5. So I think I'm going to take OpTic to win the entire tournament. I think that it creates the most interesting storyline and dynamic that ProLute comes in. They come in here with probably nothing to lose, really. They don't have much pressure, really. They're playing in front of a crowd that's going to be very favorable for them, like Dashy, Illey, of course, Karma, Rambo, a lot of OpTic heritage in Canada as it is. So they're going to have a similar crowd, really, unless they play Ultra, let's say, to what they had back at their first major, which I think does make some impact. They have, if anything, probably the slightly easier side of the bracket. Their winners round 2 game is going to be very difficult no matter what. But if they can win that, I certainly think they can take the momentum through. And I think their map pool is so deep that if they get to a grand finals, I think they'll win it. So I think I'm going to take OpTic to win. And then my dark horse, man, if Rocker do well, then that's good for my fantasy. But yeah, maybe I'll take Rocker because do they count as a dark horse? They're 5-0.
I don't think they do. I don't think
maybe they don't count. They're like the 3rd favorite. I don't think I can pick Rocker.
They do kind of count because
they were so bad
last
stage.
Expectation that they're going to win, even though
some people do though. Some people think they're going to win. So maybe I can't pick them.
Dark horse. I don't know.
Well, okay. If I can't pick Rocker, I mean, I was kind of looking at like the betting odds or whatever, and like Rocker are joint 2nd favorite to win according to the bookies. So that's probably not dark horse qualification. So I'm going to take New York. I think that there's a chance that they go back-to-back here, winning the Prem in this event. They know how much pressure's on them. I feel like to a degree, teams like Surge and Ultra and Rocker will obviously want to win, but they know that like if they get a top 4, if they get a top 6, top 3, like that's good enough, right? Because they've done quite well so far. Whereas subliners know they have to win. And when Crimsix is put into such a situation, almost as it was against OpTic recently, he tends to come up with the goods, and it's on LAN, which I think is maybe where he'll shine a bit more. And outside of that one map where he went 18 and 42, he's actually been pretty damn good and has got a lot out of this team. And Hydra's absolutely disgusting, as we well know. So it's funny, really, because I've got OpTic and Subliners. They play each other winners round 2. But yeah, I don't know. My final, OpTic versus Subliners, and OpTic win it. That's the call, baby. But it's great because we all picked entirely, apart from Surge, basically entirely different teams. Which is awesome.
We've come to terms with the fact that this game is so random. I mean, any team at any moment could catch fire and win an event. So
imagine a different team wins all the events.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
And FaZe don't win one. Cool. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Or if New York win this one and they're just the best team in the game, but they can't.
They win everything. Oh my god, you imagine? Jesus. No, if they win this, they should qualify.
Yeah.
Mad. Okay, well that's gonna do it for the day. What an episode, man. We've been going for not far off 2 hours. Thanks to Chrome for joining us, Illey, man. Of course, as always, we're wishing best of luck to Austin. Easy Mac, who is in Toronto right now, preparing for his match against Toronto kind of soon, or maybe he hasn't got off the plane yet, because I think people are having struggles with that right now. But honestly, yeah, thanks all for joining us, guys. Today was by far the biggest episode we've had. I thank Crone for that one. Crone comes on, and all of a sudden we're just breaking records. So, you know, who's surprised?
It's probably the retweet, honestly. I retweeted on CDL Inter. It's a cheat code there, please.
That is for sure a cheat code. And it started to pick up in YouTube as well. Like the algorithm started liking it, and we have a load of people in there. We have over like 1,000 on all platforms right now, which is absolutely fantastic. So have a great evening, everyone watching. Boys, final thoughts going into the major. I'll start with you, Crone.
Surge wins. Surge wins, and then FaZe wins the next one, and then who knows who wins champs.
Yeah, big up Seattle Surge. That's all we're saying. ANZ represent. I want to see.
Branded as well, right?
Is there a trophy? Did Toronto get one for this?
I think they're making. They tweeted a while ago to say that they wanted ideas. So I think it will probably get revealed on Thursday.
If Pred wins, I'm changing my profile picture to Pred holding the trophy for a week because I need that. Mark my words.
You can do more than a week. I mean,
I'll make him a hater as well. Be both.
Good stuff. Well, I hope it happens. I just hope we get a cracking tournament. And I also want to shout out the CDL because they moved back. Maybe this is on Toronto to a degree as well, because of course they know that a lot of their fans are in Europe, right? Because their team's European. But despite Thursday starting an hour and a half later than usual, which isn't great, the other days start an hour and a half earlier than usual, which is absolutely fantastic news for European fans, because it means that instead of the last series on Friday, Saturday finishing at 4 a.m., it now finishes at 2, which is borderline acceptable, but pretty good all things considered when you've got 5 series. And the Sunday, because it's going to start early, it means the grand finals actually will finish at a reasonable time, which is great work, fellas. Maybe not.
Online, I think it starts at 7 or 6 a.m.
No, earlier than that. It'll be like fucking 5:30, bro.
Oh, I'm definitely missing out on the first couple of matches.
Okay, so I've praised the CDL, but we've screwed over Line and Crone here. So
there's only 2 of us in New Zealand.
But there's only 2 fans from New Zealand. And it's these 2. So I don't know. It's always a lose-lose. Well, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. That's how it goes. Yeah, but I think in general, I'm happy with that. But of course, it's going to affect different regions differently. So it is what it is. But
lovely episode, fun.
That's going to do it, baby. Had a great time. Honestly, the chat, YouTube chat, has been wild and out of control today. Love to see it. I don't know if that's good for the algorithm, but hopefully it is, because you guys have been killing it on that front. Yeah. So anyway, have a great evening, everyone. Thanks so much for producing. Enjoy the major. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching as always. And we'll see you next time.